Welcome and a big hello to everyone. Welcome back to Coffee and Chaos. Today is my Silver Jubilee episode number 25. And I am really excited that I've come a long way. Yes, the season 1 of Coffee and Chaos is coming to an end on the 29th of June. But I've been very lucky with the kind of guests that I've worked with, the kind of conversations we've had, the kind of perspective that has come in. So it's been super fun for me, and it has been super amazing when it comes to being an eye opener. I hope it was for you too, and you've enjoyed my journey of Coffee and Chaos. My today's guest, Havovi Bhagwagal, will be here shortly, and she is another person whom I'm really excited to talk to. She is a psychologist and a psychotherapist specializing in trauma therapy. So she has been seeing a lot of clients and patients during this entire time of COVID, and I really want to understand what kind of cases did she come across, what was the difference between the old normal and the new normal, and all of that. So let's just bring her on and we can take it off from there. Just give me a second, guys, while I bring Havovi on. Okay, my guest is here, so I'm just going to quickly, we can begin. There you are. Hi, Havovi.
Hi, good
How are
evening.
you? Good evening.
I'm good.
See,
Good
you managed
evening.
with absolute finesse and no problem technologically.
I think this is maybe one off. Otherwise, my track record with lives is not very good.
Lovely. No, I think you did really well for yourself today and for Coffee and Chaos. So before we begin, Havovi, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me. I've been watching the shows and I think it's been fabulous, the array of people you've covered
Yeah.
all these months. And I think people really watch it for that. It's like an oasis. So I'm happy to be here.
I've enjoyed this season, and you must know that today is my Silver Jubilee episode, which is episode number
Mm.
25. So you're my
Oh,
Silver
is it?
Jubilee guest.
That's so nice to hear. Wow,
Yes. So
25 episodes, Karishma. My God.
that's why all silver no, today. It was just in
Oh,
my head that today is my Silver Jubilee episode. Let me do some silver thumb thumb. I was just so happy and excited to have come this a long way. And people like you have been very kind to come on the show and given so much of valuable input to all the viewers. Every single time I have spoken to every guest, it's given me so much of valuable input. So thank you so much for
absolutely.
accepting my invite and coming over. And I know
It's been a pleasure.
you are a treasure of so much information, so much knowledge, and so much of experience that I really wanted to share this with everybody who's watching. Because पता नहीं कब किसी को किस चीज से help मिल जाए. So
Correct.
I'm
Thank you for having me here.
really looking forward to chatting with you today, Abhovi.
I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to speak to you, and I know that this show of yours has a really huge audience, and I'm happy that mental health will be spoken about more than me being the carrier of this.
Yes, so mental health was one of the reasons why I started Coffee and Chaos. It was primarily because we were in that state where nobody was up to anything. You know, the whole loss of purpose, the indifference that was stepping in, the fears that were seeping in again with the second air, and the kind of trauma it brought in to everybody around, losing family, the grief, the guilt, so many things that went on. At least as someone who's just practicing psychology as a behavioral expert, I've seen so much of it happening that it's sometimes overwhelming to even talk to people, and that is why I thought that maybe doing this can let
Yes,
people know that everyone's going through it in some form or the other.
I agree, I think conversations on mental health are very important, Karishma.
Yeah.
And I sometimes feel that they are like festivals, these conversations. They're spoken about once or twice a year when something big happens, and
Yeah.
then the conversations all die down. So I think the pandemic has really talked about mental health in a different way, it brought it to everyone's living room. And people like you are also helping that journey forward. So I'm happy about that. I just hope it continues. That's all.
I think you said a very valuable point that it only comes about when something big happens, but on a day to
Like
day
last year.
basis. day-to-day
mm,
basis, mental health is so important.
mm.
I wouldn't know where I would be if I wouldn't have someone to talk to. Frankly,
Correct.
it's just so important for my brain. So before I get into more relevant questions and questions around your experiences, why don't you share a little bit of a brief description about you with our audience on how you started the journey? How did you find psychology as your calling?
Okay, so currently I practice as a psychologist and psychotherapist in in Powai Plaza. I've been practicing there 10 years now. But and I live here in Powai as well with my son and my husband, our Chota Sa Parivar. But my journey with psychology began, you'll be surprised to know, in 10th grade when I really wanted to do something in health. So I was very keen that I will take up something in health, and I knew it can't be the medical field because मुझसे science तो नहीं होता. I don't know how I passed my science and maths in 10th. Very honestly, when I look back, I think it must be some miracle.
Yeah.
Some medical profession was out. But I was very clear. By the time I reached my 11th grade, I was very clear I wanted to do psychology. I wanted to work as a therapist. And it should have been a straightforward path. Unfortunately, sometimes I feel, that when you think life will go a particular way, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of problems getting the subject of psychology because my father he had a government job. And those days, nobody really did transfers, for the family seeing the situation of the academics of the kids. Kabhi bhi utha ke, they used to just send you to different places. So six different schools, seven, I think, schools, two universities, three colleges. I did my bachelor's in three different colleges. So because of that, psychology being the coveted subject it wasn't easy to get it because you can't just, plonk a person from one college to the next and expect a college to accept you into a really prime program. And so it was very chaotic in that period where I had to take up psychology. So I remember I had to sit for interviews with my teachers and convince them why I want to be a psychologist and promise them that I will not waste this seat, this precious seat among maybe 12 or 24. And I think even today when my teachers talk to me, I am in touch with almost all of them. They say the same thing. My God, that passion which you showed then, you showed today also. Thank God to see somebody in the field even now.
Yeah.
So that's how my journey was. And as I went further into the field, I think I became clearer that this is where I want to be. I can't do anything else. This is who I am as a person. You can't put me into anything else because it feels like that's where I belong. So I think after I did my bachelor's, then life kind of calmed down. My father's job settled down because he reached a really high position in his company, and there was no more transfers because there was no more further to go. Thankfully for me,
Thank
he
God.
settled
Yeah.
in Bombay. Thank
Yeah.
God for that. And then I did my master's here in SNDT University. I did my master's in clinical psychology, and I did a course, a diploma in counseling psychology, and then on began my journey. I remember I hadn't even finished my diploma when I got my first job. I was so keen to jump into the field of working. I started working at the age of 22, 20, almost 23. I took
Yeah.
my first job up as a therapist, and I never looked back. It was always to me about working with people, working as a therapist, working in the field of mental health. I had a slight detour, a little bit in between, when my son was born for about a couple of years, where I became lost. I didn't know whether I wanted to take on the stress of this profession, go forward. So I dabbled in this, I dabbled in that for a couple of years. I did some soft skills training, I did some leadership training, never found any satisfaction. It wasn't to me about the great ratings I was getting, but about me feeling what is my calling. And
Yeah.
then around 2009, I actually got into trauma care in a lot more, I would say, deeper way. So I had been exposed to large-scale trauma work when I visited Bhuj in Gujarat in 2001. So at that point of time, I'd just been trained in a therapy called EMDR, which works primarily with trauma. And we had gone as a huge group of therapists and psychologists to Bhuj. So I'd gone there twice and I'd worked really on the ground. I was barely 24 or 25 that time, and I'd worked on the ground with the people, with children. We saw about 16,000 children, and we converted that entire research into a book chapter and then scientific studies and all of that. But it was a huge study, and it sort of gave me an idea about what I want to do. And that's where I began understanding I want to get into the field of trauma care. So slowly, when I began getting exposed to working with this field, I started loving it more. I realized that the kind of clients I saw success with were clients who had more attachment trauma, neglect and abuse in childhood, survivors of childhood trauma, people with personality disorders, complex trauma. And slowly my work began moving in that direction. And today, I would say 90% of my work is primarily focused in this area. I
Wow.
teach also students and mental health professionals about trauma. And now my PhD is also in the area of traumatic stress. I'm not doing it with patients, but I'm doing it with the traumatic stress that therapists go through. So because therapists work with patients, they go through what we call as compassion fatigue or vicarious trauma. So I'm working on that component of traumatic stress in psychotherapy. So that's my
Wow.
journey.
So you're now currently doing your PhD, and that would go on for how
Hmm.
long?
Thanks to the pandemic, I don't know how long really, because by now I should have finished my data collection, but that has really stalled because I can't meet people personally and collect data. Hopefully, when things open up, um, it should happen
Get back.
soon. It should be in the next 2 3 years. It should get completed.
Lovely. So I wanted to understand a couple of terms from you. So when people
Hmm,
want to go for therapy, they come across various terminologies. They come
hmm,
across the word psychologist, they come across the word psychiatrist, they come across the word psychotherapist. And a lot of times laymen would not understand whom should they go for what kind of help. So what kind of work entails when it comes to only a psychologist, to a psychotherapist, to a psychiatrist? What is the difference?
Lovely question. I answer this every day. So it feels like answering it one more time. Because even today, when a client calls me up, the first thing they'll say is how to address you. I don't know the difference
Yeah.
between a psychologist and a psychiatrist. So a psychiatrist is an MD doctor, somebody who's done his MBBS and then specialized in psychiatry. So, say a person is diagnosed with bipolar disorder or clinical depression. These conditions require intervention of medication. They require intervention of an antidepressant or a mood stabilizer. The psychiatrist is the person who will give that psychotropic medication to the person. So you have to visit somebody who's obviously got a degree in medicine to be able to do that. A psychologist is not supposed to prescribe medication to anyone. So then, what is the role of a psychologist? A psychologist is someone who has done their masters in psychology, and now the accepted norm, not in my time, of course, in the 90s, but now the accepted norm is to also do an MPhil in clinical psychology if you want to be a clinical psychologist. So, clinical psychologists are those who work very closely with psychiatrists in hospitals and will be doing administration of tests. Like, say, a person comes in with clinical depression or bipolar disorder, um, and they want to assess whether the person also has psychotic thinking or, let's say, schizophrenia. Some tests will be able
Yeah.
to help that differential diagnosis. So, clinical psychologists help to make the diagnosis, they help to formulate a treatment plan, they help the person to work with their negative beliefs or thoughts, which perpetuate the illness and take it forward. So that's what is the role of a psychologist. It's to work with the non-medical component of the illness. That said, psychologists are not just clinical psychologists. They are in a wide realm, which is where the confusion starts.
Right.
So there are psychologists who are also working with schools.
Yeah.
So they are counseling psychologists. There are psychologists who are working in industries, industrial
Yeah.
psychologists. And now there are psychologists working in every field.
Yeah.
So there are some psychologists and even some psychiatrists who are trained in psychotherapy. Psychotherapy is not a specific profession. It is the training that a psychologist or a psychiatrist takes up in order to provide the non-medical or the emotional component of the care to the patient. So psychotherapy, one of the ones that most people are aware about is cognitive
Yeah.
behavior therapy, CBT.
Right.
A
Right.
lot of people have heard of the term REBT, Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy. Many people have heard of terms like solution focused therapy or EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. These are forms of psychotherapy. So, and in today's with the legal norms that have just come in May 2021, the government has introduced, which was a bill, now it has become an act called the Allied and Healthcare Professionals Bill, which is now an act, which now kind of brings together psychologists and expects them to have particular amount of educational background in order to call themselves a psychologist.
Right.
Clinical psychologists are defined differently, but a person to call themselves a psychologist will also have to have an educational pathway. In today's day, this is really recent and just a month old. But that's basically the difference.
Excellent. So I think that's a clarity that I wanted to have for the audience. I of course know about it because of me wanting to
Of
also
course,
pursue my MA in Masters in psychology. So I'm on that path already. But this is something I
hmm,
think which is a very confusing word, and it's very difficult to
it is.
explain to people on what is the difference and how do you know whom should you go for what. So, we've all seen that the entire pandemic has gotten a lot of shift, and in fact, there's been a lot of spotlight on mental health because people were in isolation and quarantine, and the entire fear of contracting the virus, the post virus depression that was coming in. There were lots of things that were going on. So, as your profession, as a psychologist, as a psychotherapist, what are the kind of experiences you had during the pandemic time? So, how were the cases in the old normal different from the cases in the new normal for you?
Firstly, a lot of people believe that mental health worsened in the pandemic, but the state of mental health in this country was anyway, like a bechara crippled child. Whatever trickle of a budget we have also got
Yeah,
further cut in this budget. So our mental
yeah,
health budget, instead of increasing with the kind
yeah.
of chaos we saw, has worsened. It has actually been cut down, and that has been given to the health budget. So also what has happened is that the pandemic has brought to the surface the huge lacunae in our country. See, in any country, when you have a population of about a lakh, 100,000, you should have about mm, zero point 0.3, about three, let's say, psychiatrists or any kind of mental health professional to combat or to balance out that number. We don't have anywhere close to that. We have something like 0.03 psychiatrists and 0.0007 psychologists per 100,000. Okay,
Wow.
which basically means that if we have 15 crore Indians in active need of mental health care before the pandemic, that number would have probably become even double now. Where is the resource? Where is the resource? Okay, we don't have hospitals, we don't have psychiatrists in hospitals, we don't have the care available, and so what happens is that the bottleneck starts going towards private practitioners because obviously in the government facilities and in the
Yeah.
larger facilities we don't have the availability of proper mental health care, which means therapy and even access to medication. Now, how many private practitioners and psychiatrists and psychologists are going to be handling that load coming in? Not, it's not possible. This has doubled or tripled in the pandemic, and the initiatives in our larger ecosystem, I would say systemically, have been very poor, which is why the burden has fallen exponentially on caregivers, which means people who are working actively in the field of mental health. That's why the last year has been very burdensome. There's been a lot of burnout,
Yeah.
and the people who need help aren't getting it. See, now the way the government operates is that they'll start helplines. But what will a helpline also be able to do? That also gets jammed. Lakhs of calls are coming in on government helplines. They started, like one after the other, NIMHANS, and then the government of India and various other entities began helplines very quickly. Even those get choked. No, how many people are going to be handled by those lot of counselors? So I would say the care proportion, which was anyway so badly skewed before pandemic, has just become starkly, literally just
Yeah.
the pandemic has brought to the surface what was a huge problem anyway existing in this country.
Now it just got
So
magnified. Yeah, the whole problem.
it's just become worse. It's just become magnified, and to my knowledge, to my understanding, it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better because people are going to have to come out of this, and the real I would say the real mental or emotional problems start showing up months later. They don't show up now. So the second wave, everybody has kind of thought that the emotional issues are okay now, everyone's handled it. No way. The emotional issues are now going to start showing up July, August onwards, because it takes time for the brain to process that level of issues. Now let's just compare the first wave and second wave. There's been a lot of studies, not in India, but the National Institute of Mental Health abroad. They did a graphical representation of what would be the mental health issues between the first wave and if a second wave happened, what would be the change. Strangely speaking, rates of depression and other conditions don't change. They remain the same only because those people are anyway going to show up with problems regardless of pandemic or not non-pandemic. But rates of grief are going to hugely increase with the second wave. That's
Yeah.
what these figures had projected, and that's what has happened. And it's only going to get more and more worse as more waves hit. Third wave, fourth wave, more grief and more and lack of availability. Also,
Yeah.
remember, Karishma, I think many people are not aware that even among psychologists, psychiatrists, psychotherapists, everyone is not comfortable working with grief. It's a tough
Yeah.
area to work with. People shy
Absolutely.
away from it. They don't want to work with it. So then where do people go for care? And what happens to them if they don't get the care? It stays inside
Yeah.
and then starts bubbling up into other societal issues later. Many of the bedrock issues we see, whether it's a rape or it is assaults or it is the political violence we see, where are they all stemming from? They're stemming from this lack of care for
Right.
mental health, which is ignored. So it was always a burning issue. It never has become one. But we have to see this as a time to understand how better to equip our country to deal with this.
Yeah, I think, in addition to what you're saying, that there is a lack of availability and the lack of the fact that you don't know how to approach, whom to approach, and if people are even attending to grief. I've been doing a lot of work with the US firms, and I've seen that, the kind of openness they have to talk about grief, the kind of grief support groups that they have. So, even if it is addiction support groups or the meetings that they go to for alcohol addiction or drug addiction, similarly, they have grief support groups that people work and talk in. Whereas यहाँ पे अगर आप इंडिया में किसी को बोलो that you must talk about your grief to somebody, then the mother or the father or somebody in the house will say, forget it, अपने घर की बात किसी और को क्यों बतानी, deal with it. होते रहता है. This is
Correct.
the only fact of life. So the societal setup or the conditioning is also such that one, even if it's going to get bottled up at all point in
Correct.
time, there are so many things, particularly as the Asian community or the Indians, that we bottle up within us purely because of our bringing up and the kind of things we were told when we were children. So, do you see that barrier breaking at any point in time? Do you think societal barriers in India will change when it comes to mental health?
Hopefully, there this past year, because of the
Yeah.
conversations, and in the last 20 years, I've never seen conversations like this around mental health.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go, somebody's speaking about it, any
Yeah.
platform. So somewhere it has to reach. But the fact is it reaching really the place it should?
Yeah.
Or is it staying within that, small thin layer of 10% urban population that have access to social media and can see it? There are some emerging reports that say that kids, especially teenagers, in very, very low income groups, not only in cities but also outside of cities, because their schooling is now gone online, have also access to things they never had earlier, like conversations on mental health, access to an
Yeah.
online psychiatrist or psychologist, which they didn't have. Who knows, this may be the new way of, the
I, in
rural
fact,
community.
I was
Yeah.
talking to Principal Kalyani Patnaik just the other day
Mm,
when she was on the show,
mm,
and we discussed mental and emotional health, and she did see that from the education ministry, this would come in as not maybe a special subject, but it would be discussed in every subject with people,
yeah.
with the kids, so that
Yeah.
they get openness to addressing or the awareness of what am I really going through, what am I feeling, is it denial, is it acceptance, is it rejection, is it the competition that builds, and there are so many things that affect a child's mental health, or and
Yeah.
eventually we all know we are today, whoever we are a product of what we felt way back when we were really kids. So most of the trauma begins from there. And even now,
Correct.
when we talk even in my sessions, when we talk, it's mainly about addressing about what happened way back when I was 10, when I was 8, when I was 9. Even if
Correct.
it's not as severe as a molestation that may have happened, it could
Yes.
have been as
Yes.
severe as feeling abandoned. It could have been not being paid attention to. It could have been the jealousy
Correct.
of a rival sibling. There's just everything that stems way back then. So I'm hoping, like you are, that we see some amount of change, and the talking about it gets this okay. It's okay to talk. Pick uh, right in the childhood days.
Hopefully that is, when the Mental Health Care Act came in 2017, it's now been 4 years.
Yeah,
Implementing it has been a challenge. Same
yeah,
way I feel that now with the NEP, the new NEP that's come in, this education policies has so many brilliant facets to it, a lot of which are focusing on a child's emotional health. I just hope it's implemented in the right way and put
yeah,
into, especially at those areas or those children who don't have access to it and
right.
whose parents don't have an understanding of it either. I just hope it reaches there at some point of time into our really rural areas.
Yeah, I think amen to that. I think it's an extremely sensitive place, and I'm sure when you worked in
Yes.
Bhuj, like you said, it would have been an experience of a lifetime for you. I think those learnings will never leave you.
Yeah, in fact, after Bhuj, even Kashmir we went when the floods had happened. Again, we got together a group and went. There was also another group that had gone during the tsunami, but I was carrying my first child then. And my husband said, no way, there's no way you can do this. But I was always keen to work in areas like this. And on the ground work is something that I've been doing as often as I can and as many opportunities as come up. They change you as a person.
Oh yes,
So it's, yeah,
absolutely.
it's something which I think I took away more from it than I gave and came back. So I
I'm
just hope
sure.
a lot more of that work can happen.
Just hearing about it, and even if I mean I have a very audiovisual mind, I could literally picture this happening, and I don't know what it would do to me. Frankly, if I was there, I would probably have some kind of an epiphany or some kind of a change that would bring in, probably be there for the rest of my life with me. So during this entire pandemic, the kind of clientele you have been getting, had there been any peculiar number of cases you may have seen about a certain psychological issue during the pandemic? Has it been any different
La,
from before?
y- yeah, from before, you mean prior to the pandemic. So I'll
Right.
talk about before, then the first wave and the second wave.
Yeah.
Before the pandemic, I think it was, multitude of reasons people would call up. It could be they're calling up because they are in the middle of a manic episode. They could be calling up for help related to relationship problems, help with their children, lots of variety of things. Depression is a really common reason people seek therapy, and often when they come in or used to come in before the pandemic, I would say it wasn't really depression. There are multiple other issues that need to be worked with, but depression has
Yeah.
become like a catch-all phrase for mental health now. Instead of saying that I have mental health problems, everyone says I have depression, though
Yeah.
that may not even be technically correct. So that was how it was, a mixture of things before the pandemic. But in the first wave, I did see a lot of anticipatory anxiety
Mm.
because people were fearful about getting the virus, but there
Yeah.
wasn't so much information about the virus then. And more than the virus, people were concerned about the lockdown. Very honestly, that took up a lot of mental health space in the first wave.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of people with suicidal ideation in the first wave, a lot of people with relationship breakdowns, people who were, used to moving away from abusive environments had to perforce stay in those abusive environments because of the lockdown and in close quarters with their abuser sometimes. So those were difficult times until things opened up in June and July last year. This year, though, Karishma, it's been traumatic for me as a therapist. I'm speaking only for myself now, but last 2, 3 months have been, I don't know what to call it. I just feel like I've been walking in a dream of seeing just too much happen in the last
Yeah.
2 or 3 months. Sometimes, So since I think April mid, early April, I was expecting that things will get really bad, not only with my existing clients, but I would get calls for more and more patients, and that's really what happened. And then my mother-in-law got admitted right in the middle of all of that oxygen crisis, and that she got COVID and she had to get admitted to hospital. Thankfully, she is back now and she's fine. And then entire month of May and half of June, it's just been coping with grief, helping people cope with grief and loss, grief and loss. That's about it. I uh, I think there are very few other issues that I have seen that are as devastating as what's happened in the pandemic. So that's one huge portion of work that I am doing. And the second is also working with a burnout that we are seeing doctors and therapists and
Yeah.
uh, other frontliners and health professionals go through. That's another section of uh, focus that I've been having. So every second Saturday, we've started this group in which we're bringing together therapists as a safe space to speak about. So today, in fact, in the evening at 7:30, we have a meeting that's bringing together therapists, and we share and talk about how we feel during this pandemic. And most of them say the same thing, that the last 2 months have been devastating for people because of the kind of loss. You see, we've had so many crises in this lifetime that you and I have led seen also, but we never had a crisis where we can't attend a funeral,
Yeah.
where we can't go for a
No
prayer
closure.
meeting, and there's
No
no
closure.
closure. There's disenfranchised grief that is unimaginable. That
Yeah.
people, I mean, there's people who have seen their loved ones only wrapped in a cloth, people who have not seen their loved ones at all because they were
Really sad.
kept away. uh, Families where people say, Acha, people say these things to make others feel better, but I really wonder whether they're doing the right thing or not,
Yeah.
saying things like, God gives you enough to handle. But God doesn't give a young mother who's, lost her husband of 28 years of age enough to handle. So, really, the kind of things I've heard, you can ask my husband, there'll be nights he'll find me just awake, not being able to get sleep because those images flash in front of my mind of the stories people talk about and the kind of things they say in the last days that they had to witness, the young deaths, people who were not expected to die. So it's been uh, really difficult the last 2 months.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my gauge is that as you rightly said, in the Asian cultures, we don't talk about it. So we may not hear about grief in the next 2, 3 months, but there are going to be various other mental health issues that emerge going back to this unresolved grief, or because they didn't get anyone to talk about it with at that point of time. I'm anticipating that's what's going to be coming up as time goes by. Of course, right now I'm getting a lot of anxiety from parents for their kids because of the
For the
upcoming
third
third
wave.
wave,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there is all kinds of mixed messages again coming from the government, which doesn't make it easy. Sometimes, some experts say it's going to be difficult, some experts say it's not. So this kind of uncertainty really doesn't give voice to our anxiety, just makes it worse.
Hmm.
So that's about how it's been.
That's how it's been. So I know that
Mm,
this is of course a very different issue. Some pandemic, we probably will remember the lessons it taught us, but eventually it will pass and life will begin again, normally at some point in time. And there's one question which I wanted to really ask you, particularly about, this is a Pride Month that's going on at the moment, and a lot of LGBTQ relationships are now coming on the forefront. People are owning up to their sexuality and owning up to the fact of who they really are. Do you see a lot of patients who come to you, a lot of clients who are from the LGBT community, or what kind of issues do they go through? Is it okay? Do people really talk about it?
So I'll tell you when I first began my journey, uh, 2000, 2001. At that point of time, not only was it taboo, it was illegal also. No? So, except briefly when the government laws changed somewhere around 2009. But when I first began working, it was such a huge shame not only to have or want a homosexual or a lesbian relationship or any other form of love, as I call it. It was not only a shame, it was the person themselves were phobic about feeling or having these feelings. So
Yeah, sure.
homophobia was not just there in the environment, but
Other
within the
people,
person
but
itself,
within the
you
person
know,
as well. Hmm.
within the person themselves. And that I think has changed. That's one thing I'm seeing hugely change. I think we have a long way to go before we can really accept that the laws have changed and that it is a natural process when you feel love for somebody of the same sex or you feel sexual attraction for somebody of the same gender. It's going to be a long time before India accepts it socially. At least legally, they have accepted it. The but the people who, because of the laws changing, have now been able to talk about it openly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had otherwise, especially youngsters
Hmm.
who are open about talking that they may be experimenting with bisexuality and they're wanting to think about it. It's not something which they block out, okay,
Yeah.
and then do secretly after they're married. So that narrative is beginning to change, and I'm happy to see that. I can't tell you
I'm so happy to see. I
how
am
happy I
so
am to
happy.
see that.
And my heart goes
Yeah,
out every time I see, even on LinkedIn, on forums where people are so willing to talk about, hey, this is how I came out and this is my story. And I would be like, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, if someone was talk about it, there would be such a revolt around, people
correct.
kissing on the road. How can you even look at another guy of the same sex or whatever? I just see that as a better future for our children. you know
Absolutely, I
the
agree.
kind of, I know we are midway to our lives, but our children have their whole lives to go for. And even
Correct.
if as parents and individual houses, if we can talk to our children about how okay it is to feel whatever you feel, you know this whole negating that this is not right, that is not right. And if I think as
Absolutely.
parental generation, if we can all do this, we will not have to celebrate a Pride Month.
I know.
it,
It will
we
just
can
be a
be
natural
Pride
thing.
all through the year, no matter
Absolutely.
who you really are. So I'm happy that चलो कुछ नहीं से तो एक महीना आया Pride का where people are talking about it, but in the future I do really hope that it is
It
all year
becomes
of.
an organic part. Yeah, it's just an organic part of us having a sexuality. This is like male females like one another, female male like one another. It's the same thing. There should be no. I also agree there should be no celebration. It should just be a normal thing that happens on a daily basis, and nobody should
Right.
think twice about it. I'm happy though that this whole pronoun culture has come in. So, people
Yeah.
have become sensitive to it and have started understanding how to address others, and that everybody is not just he, she. Uh,
Yeah, there could be
we
a
may
day.
have
Yeah.
yeah, they could be a they could identify with either and be of another gender. So there's a lot. In fact, when I used to work in the early part of my career with people who had gender identity disorder. So I work
Yeah.
with a number of such people. They have a lot of trauma, not
Yeah.
just because of the
A
gender
lot.
identity. Yeah, because in India, it's not legal to do sex change operations. They can't really do a sex assignment or reassignment surgery very easily here. They
Sure.
have to go abroad, be in hiding. Now, those things are also changing. There is an openness to talk about it on social
Yeah.
media. There are people happily talking and sharing pictures and connecting with one
Oh,
another on
forget,
it.
I mean, not just that. I'm from the pageant industry. So, from the
Yeah,
pageant industry, we've seen कि पहले Miss pageant, फिर Mrs. pageant, फिर Mrs. pageant, how it opened up. Now there are trans queen pageants.
how nice,
So,
no?
so there are trans women participating from all over India and, participating in owning up to their sexuality, owning up to feeling different and walking the ramp. It is so beautiful to see this. And I've had the
Absolutely.
pleasure to coach a group of trans women for the trans queen. For one, I think I just had one session with them, but I was all smiles.
How
I
nice.
was so happy to see it because the kind of warmth they generated, the kind of
Yes,
confidence they have. लड़कियों में नहीं होता उतना confidence, लड़कों में नहीं होता. But given the fact
correct.
that they're owning two sexualities, they literally
Yes,
have best of both the worlds if you choose to look at it like
correct.
that. You know,
Absolutely. If we
so
choose
it's
to look at it like that, it's
correct.
really we who have to change in the way we are observing them and viewing them.
Yeah,
And I really hope it happens in the US also and in cultures like the UK where this has been legalized many years ago. They still have so much
still a bad.
difficulty accepting. Still, they're still
Absolutely.
so very stereotyped about it. So we have a long way to go. I think for us, we still have to start at grassroots, accepting that it's natural. It's not unnatural.
Yeah,
We're still stuck at that.
I think वो भी हो जाए ना for India. That's a big movement.
That's a big move. I agree.
Big
I so
movement.
agree with you.
Just,
Yeah,
I mean, forget about it's just you and me talking, maybe because we're on the same length with understanding this. But you talk to people of our generation in different houses, you still find a difference there. And they'll be like, no,
correct,
but why are you advocating it? But why are you making the child sensitized about it? Is it because the child needs to know? And what is
correct.
wrong with that? No, but why are you putting it in the child's head? What if he or she starts thinking differently because you're saying it? And that is really surprising. So we do have a long way to go, but I am
We
very
have a
hoping
long
we
way.
have begun.
What's also important is that because of this whole thing कि मेरे बच्चे को बदल डालो and make their mind change from for liking a guy to liking girls again, that has given rise to conversion therapy. Thankfully, that's illegalized now. You've heard, right? Conversion therapy is this
Yeah,
big fad in the US, and then here there are so many operating psychiatrists, counselors, psychologists who promise parents and promise people कि हम थोड़े sessions में we change your mind about your sexuality.
yeah,
Yeah, like I mean that's so wrong. It is something you're born with, and people are making money out of this. This sadness, this lack of information. I really hope all of this changes in the
yeah,
future. And for
yeah.
that,
So
laws have to change. Yeah,
laws have to change. Yeah. So overall, I think holistically we have so much to work on as a system,
yes,
as a country,
yes,
as families, as communities, as individuals. We are just going to have
correct.
to go like one baby step at a time. And I think
I
I'm just
agree.
happy to be a part of it in any way possible. I'm all advocacy about all of this. So at any point in time where you feel I can help you in any forum, just reach out to me.
I will keep it in mind. I'll keep it in mind for sure.
Anytime.
Now that you've told me, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
keep it in mind.
Lovely. So thank you for sharing all this, Apovi. And I know that we've probably crossed the limit of the time that we had with us already because there's so much to discuss around mental and
Yes, I
emotional health.
know. Yeah,
I've been talking about the word language and language से तो in fact
yeah,
ये session मेरा शुरू हुआ था. So I spoke about how language is right in between fulfillment and depression and how that whole I am indifferent to my own indifference
hmm,
had really come in and people were finding it difficult to get up from the bed and do things is why the reason
yes,
of Coffee and Chaos really happened. It gave me a purpose to
hmm,
do something. So while
hmm.
we've been languishing and you've been dealing with a lot of patients, how are you keeping yourself sane among all of this?
I've also been languishing in between. I've had those
Naturally.
moments moments where so to me languishing is about doing great work or doing good stuff and not finding joy still in what you're doing
Hmm.
and not finding purpose despite having maybe everything
Yeah.
structured around you. So I think that's really what it is. And I feel that somewhere if we look at how our brain functions, it's somewhere because we're constantly in the state of readiness, which we're not, it's unnatural for us to be in, right? We don't know when the next unlock will happen, when the next lockdown will happen. Is life supposed to resume normalcy, or is this how our life is supposed to look? So when humans don't have consistency, then they tend to go into this give up mode of
Yeah.
not understanding how they're supposed to respond to a changing environment. So I
Hmm.
think that's really where this constant amygdala alert, as it is known as, it's making us reach a place where we are exhausted to some extent, not tired, just emotionally unable to find happiness or initiative in
Happiness.
anything. So I think how do I keep myself motivated? One of the things I remember that I got into a bad habit. I had a bad habit early also, and I must admit, lot of coffee. Yeah,
Hmm.
it used to keep me going. And after the pandemic started, because of the stress of the lockdown and then the kind of patients we were seeing, I was just binging on coffee and tea, and I become literally a junkie. So I made a conscious effort to cut down. I can't stop. Yeah, let's be honest, I'll never be able to do that. But I've cut it down to just 2 cups, and then I don't have any tea or coffee after 4 or 5 p.m. in the evening. I try to make sure that doesn't happen, so it doesn't affect my sleep that much then. And another thing which I was very bad at doing was mindfulness. Though I would advocate it to everyone, I find I don't spend so much time in it. But I have been consciously setting aside time every evening to do a simple mindfulness, just using an app. It can be an app like Insight Timer, Headspace, but just 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And mindfulness is not about meditation. It's not about going into your inner world, but actually staying in the outside world and learning to be okay with what's happening outside. So learning to use the five senses to stay connected. And I think that's been really helpful to me. And I practice it with my clients also on a daily basis. And I think I've been keeping myself sane because I've seen my family up close like this. My husband and I have never spent so much time together in the 17 years of marriage. So I'm seeing, I mean, this has been really soul nurturing for me, spending this time with them at home, uh, just our little world, understanding each other, having three meals together, speaking about the world situation together as a couple, then with my son. That I think was hugely missing in my chaotic life earlier, where all of us would return home at 9:30, totally squeezed out. There's no energy left in anybody to talk, forget to anything. And there's hardly any quality interaction there was in the life before. So I think this whole year of this soul nurturing, I'll never forget. That has, I think, really changed me also as a person, made me change how I look at my family. So it's been an amazing time in that sense,
Yeah,
not
I think
otherwise maybe.
you need that given what you deal with on a daily basis. You need to have to nurture your mind, body, soul, all of it at different points in time. So this entire holistic approach of maybe stopping the junk from getting inside your body to, spending quality time to the mindfulness activities that you've done. I think overall, if all of us can remove some bits of,
Little,
percentage of time in
yeah.
every area, that could really help us.
It does help. It really helps. And even something which I never used to do earlier, which was journaling, that I've started doing.
Yeah.
I found it is so helpful, so helpful. And I'm hoping to have time for more hobbies as time goes, once the
Yeah.
PhD is done. But I see all of you guys, trying out new things, and I see, wow, I always look at when in the night when I'm before I sleep, no, I see few people's Insta stories or something like that to just understand, oh, what are the other things that people are doing in the creative world? Because my whole day is spent with people who are
Yeah.
dealing with life very different, not in a sense very regular. So I like to kind of connect with that regularity, and I feel so nice to see all this, to see people
Lovely.
try different things. Yeah,
I think the whole world is a mixed bag of different people doing different things differently, and that is what is the
yeah,
most interesting variety of the bouquet of flowers that we all have as a human fraternity.
yes.
So thank you so much for adding a little bit more perfume, a little bit more fragrance to the flower bouquet. However, I think more and more people like you are required, not just as a psychologist, but also as a human being. You've always been around, and I've known you as, apart from being a psychologist, I've known you as a person, and I think that is a very, very endearing quality about you. So keep up
Thank you.
that more than
Thank you.
anything else. So thank you for being
Thank you
you.
for,
And before we end the session, I want the viewers, if they manage to stay through the whole session because we went on very long,
yeah, we
is to
did, didn't we?
is to
Yeah.
get to know you a little bit. So I have a chota
Hmm.
sa rapid fire for you.
Oh my God, I didn't know something like this happens. Okay.
So this is I don't say, I don't let the guest know. I do it like a spontaneous thing so that it comes out
Okay.
spontaneously. इसमें थोड़ा उल्टा है.
Hmm.
You have to send me a hamper. It's not like so I'm telling the guest, I'm giving you. You've got to do well, but you've got to send me the hamper. Okay?
I'll
So
send
let's.
you something. I'll send you all fattening stuff. So you enjoy it, eat one day, take out, and
I don't
to
want.
give you a diet up.
I've just changed my statement. I don't want. This is
I'll
reverse
send you a bunch
psychology,
of
not
cookies.
psychology. Okay, let's begin.
Hmm.
Meaning of your name.
The meaning of my name. Oh, it has a long story. First of all, my name is spelled as H apostrophe VOVI.
Yeah.
So that's how it's spelled in Persia. Because in Persia, what they do is, because I'm Parsi, they drop the vowel and they add an apostrophe. That's how names are spelled even today. So my mother decided to go the Persian way and the real, culturally appropriate way, but it created so much problem in birth
I can
certificates,
imagine.
in leaving certificates, in passport, online,
Yeah.
and now I've just dropped it to just make it simpler. Then I went into the hunt of what does my name mean.
Hmm.
So we Parsis don't really believe in a god. We have a prophet whose name is
Hmm.
Zarathustra, and his wife's name was Havubi. But that's not enough for me. So I dug a little more into some ancient texts and all, and I figured out that Havubi means the girls who are born to a family called Havov, which basically is a well-to-do family with a lot of, wealthy. So just like in Hindi, you have the name Sunita coming from a good family. So the version of my name is coming from a good family.
Lovely. So interesting. See, I had no idea about this. What's your favorite holiday destination?
Uh, I think it will be somewhere in the north, maybe Corbett or Dharamshala. Those
Lovely.
are places I would love to go to and
Okay.
have been to.
And have been to. So, what's your bucket list destination?
Oh my God, many. I want to go to, the Plum Village, where you're taught mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh, and I want to go to Switzerland. I want to visit the West Coast in the US. I want to explore many parts of Southeast Asia that I never had a chance to do. So many, many places.
Many. Abhi to list has gone up
Many.
because the last 2 years
Oh,
got
it's
taken
it's
away from
increased.
travel.
Exactly, it's increased.
Okay, I know this answer, but I'm still asking you the question. Yoga or gym?
You know the answer, then why are you asking?
I just know
Yoga.
you. Mountains or sea?
Mountains, definitely.
Your favorite book?
Oh, oh my God, Karishma, from so many, so many. How do I find a book? My God. I think it'll have to be the book that introduced me to me a little bit. So, Body Keeps the Score by Vanderkolk. That's a book on trauma. And I read it many times to feel connected to myself and to feel good. And I don't know if many people have heard of it, but it's a book I really, really admire and I've learned a lot from.
It says
It's called
body.
Body Keeps the Score.
Body keeps the score, huh?
Body
Wow,
Keeps the Score.
it's
Yeah.
definitely going on my reading list. Your
Yeah.
favorite movie?
Okay, so don't shoot me for this. Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge. Sorry.
I
I'm
should
sorry.
have
I've seen it. I
yeah,
I've seen it more than 15, 17 times in my youth.
I agree with you. I am a complete DDLJ. Dil to pagal hai. Hum aapke hain
Shah
kaun?
Rukh Khan.
Name it and sare I have seen it.
Shah Rukh Khan.
Okay. Your one prayer for the world.
One prayer for the world. Take care of your mental health. Please don't hide it. If you have sorrow, if you have joy, share it. Don't hide any of your emotions.
Okay, lovely. A phrase you use often.
Uh, इधर आओ या फिर nowadays in the lockdown काम करो या ये काम करो to my family. That's I think been a
Okay.
common phrase.
Okay.
It should
And
have
the
last year
last,
it would have been बर्तन धो.
my God, don't remind me of that, please. It still gives
My
me
God,
tremors. Yeah.
trauma.
There's a thought of it. That will be a trauma therapy I think people would have needed. The last question for the day. Advice for people who think multiple times before going for therapy or wanting to approach a therapist. What's that
You
one
wouldn't think
inhibition they should get over with?
the same inhibition. It's not just with therapy, with any healthcare professionals. That the other day a psychiatrist had put up on his wall that people don't think twice if they have a problem with their computer, immediately they'll call a computer engineer. But when it comes to health or mental health, first they'll go on internet, then they'll talk to a neighbor, then they'll talk to somebody, then they'll talk, then that through that meandering route they finally reach a doctor or a mental health professional. I think we shouldn't attach so much
Yeah.
importance to seeking out mental health and make it personal. Like if something happens to our laptop, we don't make it personal, no? Like something's wrong with us. Similarly, something's wrong with your body or your mind. It's almost like a machine that also requires professional intervention. So that's how you should see it and not see it so personally.
I think that's excellent. I'm going to quite use that example and pass it on to people and see more and more people can
Please
get.
do.
Because
Please
in
do.
the West, when I, like I said, when I'm doing my US trainings, therapy is like brushing teeth for them. It's a part of their
Exactly.
daily lives, and so many of their
Exactly.
issues get sorted because they're so used to talking to someone professional about it. And I really,
Absolutely.
really wish that somehow some bit of that culture gets inculcated in our country. So I'm
I
happy to
hope
be
so.
the mouth that can pass this word on, and I shall
Please
continue
do.
doing it. Thank you so much, Abhobi, for coming. It was a complete pleasure. I totally enjoyed this chat. I don't know about the
Same here.
viewers, and I think they will find a lot of value if they find the patience to stay through it. But I've enjoyed it, and it was a lot of value addition for me. So thank you so
Thank you
much for
so
coming.
much.
I
Thank
hope
you
you had a
for
good time.
for being here. I had a great time. I didn't even know how much time had passed till you told me, oh, we've crossed the time. In
Yeah.
fact, I was nervous before coming because I was telling my husband that I don't speak about myself, so I don't know what to talk because Karishma's question, one of the questions is what talk about your journey. Is
Yeah.
very it's something never spoken about from my side. But thank you so much for having me here and asking such insightful questions.
Pleasure's all
Thank
mine.
you.
I was curious, so I made all those questions to ask you. Thank you for sharing so authentically, Abhobi. God bless. Have a lovely day and a lovely weekend, and lots of love to you and your family.
Thank you. Same here.
Thank you for coming. Bye bye. See you.
Bye.
So, guys, that was Havovi, and I hope you guys got a lot of information from this show. All the best to everybody. Have a lovely weekend. I will see you guys back on episode number 26 on Tuesday. Yes, we need more such conversations. For everyone who joined in, thank you so much for coming in. And I know you couldn't ask a lot of questions because we were running out of time. So my request is I'm going to be posting this video on IGTV. If you do have any questions that how we can answer, just put it in the comment box and tag her and she should be able to reply to you. And or else you can just send it to me and I will pass it on to Havovi. So thank you so much everybody. God bless, Rab Rakha, and have a lovely, lovely weekend. Bye-bye.